I think, Dan, thank you for joining, because one of the key questions genuinely on my mind at the moment is around creativity and the kingdom and how those two intersect. And because you've come in to meet today, I just kind of last minute grabbed you.
Great. Yeah, you did.
So threw you on the spot. But I thought we've had a couple of conversations with different people about the ways and I know you've been like a pastor, you've done like acting stuff, you've done radio stuff, and I know that your heart is very much around creativity in the kingdom and the whole person stuff. So, and even Anne asked this question in a really good way. What would you say would be top of mind for you, even right now in this season, given everything the world's been through, around creativity and the kingdom and how they intersect?
Yeah, it's funny because I find almost everything, all my creative stuff is kingdom stuff for me. And it's funny because I was a pastor for 12 years, and I used to think, there has to be there's pastor church stuff, and then there's my acting stuff, my acting, directing, writing. And it was probably 2016 when I realized they're not actually two separate worlds at all. Like all my creating stuff is totally kingdom stuff. Yeah. And just because maybe a stage play or a film or a TV show, maybe because it's got dark content and doesn't necessarily mention faith at all, it's mirroring life, and you're playing people, and you have a chance to, explore and communicate people in different circumstances and how they've ended up where they are.
Yeah.
And in and around that, and conversations backstage, behind the scenes, and all that opens up all this opportunity to discuss, kingdom. Like it is part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's just not in a church or run by church stuff, but it's all kingdom stuff. I feel God is very much. Of course, I feel He's present everywhere, but I know and I'm aware of His presence. When you're, in a film set with no one else who has the same faith as you, and you're filming a fight scene where you're hitting someone over the head with a crowbar.
Yeah.
But you still know, God is totally here and active in everyone's life, and I get to be there with them and do life with them in that space, and for me that's kingdom stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to unpack that, because I remember I did acting, and I remember doing a Raging Bull scene, and I literally was beating my fellow actress.
Wow.
And I was actually distressed. She was so distressed by the scene we had to cut.
Oh wow.
And she was crying because it was pretty full on. Like I wouldn't have even. I'm just going, what have I done? I'm obviously a lot bigger than her, But there was something where I genuinely feel that I've probably tapped into something for her to feel that in a real way beyond the scene.
Yeah.
And I know that was something that also Anne had mentioned. How do you understand that? Like, what are we doing there when we're tapping into?
Yeah.
Because there's shadows, isn't there, as well? There's not just the luminosity, but I suppose there's something in there.
And you've got to be careful too. Like I'll explain this to young actors who come through Salt House or whatever. You've got to be really careful where you let yourself go for that kind of stuff. So some people are full-on method, and they'll relive memories, and they'll tap into an emotion that they felt at this age in this circumstance, and then they'll bring that to the scene. So I generally don't do that. I've learnt to just pretend, which for sure gives you a different quality of acting. But if I want to be an actor long term, I've got to do that to protect myself. And
totally.
But you do tap into some really dark stuff, and I've learnt that I had to grow in my self-control in that space. Because, I remember in my early 20s going to acting school and for the first time really raging, because that's what they said. That's when this scene we want you to, and you do it. And then I remember having a disagreement with my fiance, like a week later, and I yelled, and I was like, oh my goodness, where did that come from? I'm so sorry. So just that process of learning self-control and learning that that's in me. Okay, that's in me. So what do I do with that now?
Yeah, totally.
It's not like, you think I'm not capable of raging like that? No, yep, we totally are.
Yeah.
So how do I use that, guide that? Where's a safe space to release that? Yeah. Is it okay to ever release that? All that stuff.
Totally. I'm taken straight away to Jesus, just his words. He's pretty much always highlighting there's lust, there's anger, there's these emotions that he sort of pretty much pins humanity with.
Yeah, and they're there.
Yeah.
And they're totally there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's probably one of the biggest aspects of my faith and the creative world together has been that journey of self-control. Like allow yourself to feel something if you feel it. Okay, cool. Where's a safe and healthy place to release that or play that? But just because, there's like a common phrase is, hey, you be you. You be you, man. You just be you. Which is fine, unless you're a fully aggressive, raging, then okay. Then
don't be you, maybe.
Don't be that aspect of you. That's not healthy. So that whole self-control thing is really important.
Yeah, just the exploration as well, hey? Like exploration of all the parts of ourselves, I suppose, That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that bit, man. Yeah, anything else that you would think because I'm thinking in our movement of churches, we've got people involved in all sorts of creativity, and you're a champion for that, right? This is what you've done. And I guess I'm curious to think, how does that become more of an exploratory space in our movement as we hold together people who offer, because when this dawned on me, I don't even know who said it, but Bezalel is the first. So in the Old Testament, Bezalel is the first person filled with the Holy Spirit, and the reason he's filled with the Holy Spirit is for the building of the tabernacle, right?
Great.
So it's creative work, because when you think about the measurements, think about how these are measured, the kind of textures, colors, all involved. The first time you hear God putting his spirit in a person is Bezalel. And I kind of found that so it's for art, it's for creativity that God gives his spirit the first time mentioned in scripture. There's something to that, right?
Great.
So then, because the spirit, the creative, spirit of God who's hovering over the waters of creation, very much present in any form of creativity, how does that get explored? Because I don't know, I haven't done enough thinking, but I just go...
I honestly believe that all creativity comes from God. We can use it to honor him, or we can corrupt it and use it to not honor him, right? But it would be great to create safe spaces where people are allowed to explore creatively, you know what I mean? Where we don't put a boundary on it, say, hey, grab Joe off the street. Maybe he has a faith, maybe he doesn't, but he loves to paint. So we go, here's a space for you, paint, be creative. And that way you see what's in their soul, you see what God's doing in their world, whether they're aware of God or not, and they create whatever it is. And whether we deem it appropriate or not, it's what's inside this dude.
Yeah.
So let him create, here's a space, you do whatever you want. Are there rules? No, there's no rules. Just paint. Oh, can I do that? Yeah, do whatever you want. And then explore the painting with him afterwards and go, mate, okay, it's like, why this? Why did you do this? I don't get that. And then you're really getting into someone's soul, right? Because it's quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think when you
massively.
For someone to get on stage and perform, or for someone to, to say, I here's my drawing, because we can say, oh, that's terrible, or or we can go, okay, cool. What's that all about? So, wouldn't it be lovely to have, churches in the community having spaces where they go, come in. Doesn't matter what you believe, come in, create. And then you see the soul of the community, the soul of the people, and you get to chat through all that.
I love that. Especially, I heard Andrew Ball say that he wants to see the church in the future as a repository of wisdom. Yeah, and something in me really resonated when he said that word in that sequence almost, and I go, that the wisdom is the interpretation of the art, right? Like if you get to journey with someone and you get to, in love and in kindness, but you get to explore the interpretation of whatever's being created and acknowledge the presence that, hey, if you're able to create, like what's the connection with a creator, or like how does, like it feels like there's something tangible to this. And a little while ago, a group of us went to this like adventure therapy kind of conference, which is interesting because I think,
can I say that sounds great? Adventure therapy. Yeah. I love the idea.
It was actually really cool in the sense of people recognizing that there's a healing space that comes when because when you're in adventure, you connect with a part of yourself that you're not normally connected with.
Correct.
And you can't force that. So if I say, Dan, and I've had this experience where people go to their inner world because they've had, so my wife's a scuba dive instructor, similar thing.
Right.
People experience anxiety attacks all the time. Why? It's not the diving. The diving has facilitated something that's already in them, and now it's popping. And if you've got a gifted interpreter,
Wow.
it's always something else. And we found with those that are close to us in that, they all share pretty powerful life experiences, which is really what was going on in that anxiety. It's just the thought of the dive had triggered what was
Yes.
already there. And I feel like all creativity somehow does that. It somehow connects us better to ourselves, better to God, and better to others, because there's this almost communal aspect to it as well. So I even wondered around, how do we help people do the interpretation of this thing? Not in a nebulous, unspecific way, but actually an intentional kingdom Jesus way.
Yeah,
that he's a part of
great.
this. So I don't know. These are things that are stirring. But I go,
Which can just happen in conversation, can't they? You know,
Yeah.
you like someone, whatever, creates a sculpture, and they're like, I don't even know why I created this, but I created this sculpture, and there's all this to it. And then someone can intentionally come alongside them and not say, oh, you did this because this is going on in your mind. No,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just,
yeah.
just explore, like, which really, I think, some of the best counsellors and psychologists, right, just ask the right
Good
question.
questions.
They're just
Yeah,
asking the
spot on.
question, why did you create that? What's with that? Why is the shoulder like this? Okay, it's like, has something happened in your world to create, you know, and you can intentionally just get alongside someone and, yeah, like navigate to find out what's going on there. And it's the whole, you know, if you seek the truth, you will find it. If you're genuinely seeking the truth, you'll find it. So to just be asking the right questions and allow someone to create in that space, you get to the root of it. And yeah, like you and I would believe at the base of that, they're going to find the creator.
Yeah.
Right? So just do that creative journey with someone.
That's such an exciting conversation. That really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.